Still trying to figure out this recording platform, but on episode 104 of the BIC podcast, it does all kinds of wacky things, Brandon. You don't even know. I don't know what's going to happen. I push a button, Lord knows, anything could happen, even a boat. But on this episode, we're actually going to talk about, I was able to pick up a card that I'll briefly talk about that actually allowed me to complete a set. Oh my God, a completed set. I'll quickly show that. But then also, I want to say it loud and proud for those in the back. It is Mayo Monday. Yes. We'll briefly touch on it, really quick briefly, and then we'll talk a little bit about the dark side. When breaking goes wrong. We actually have a little background that we can offer on that. That and more on this episode of the BIC podcast. Exciting times. We got the Mayo Monday. We are back. So really quickly, just going to touch on it. Go ahead, Brandon.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I want to mention this real quick. And I know our audience will not be able to see this, but I just would like to point out the gazing eyes of Brett Favre now looks like he's wearing 3D glasses.
These are the things that happened. I'll just put it this way. The amount of energy and effort that it would take to recreate it, the sponsors don't cover all that, is all I'm saying. They don't cover that quite that much. You know, our people are currently, they're striking in solidarity with Canada Post. They're currently on the picket lines. We will let you know when they come back. When they come back,
word on that. I need some, I got cards held up. Is there any movement? What are they saying up there?
That they're saying there's no movement. I think. Look, a quick aside since you brought it up. I think there is one specific hangup for the majority of the things that are being shipped. I think that, and this is something that I think the Canada Post people are going to start realizing. By that I mean the folks that are striking for it. They're going to realize that the majority of us don't send letters.
Yeah.
There's very specific use cases, like certain small businesses and things like that send it, but our Amazon packages continue to be delivered unencumbered by this.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of the other businesses that are doing courier, all the couriers, literally, I had a knock on my door the other day, but the packages were right there on the ground, ready to go. I grabbed my box and I'm out the door. That's not going through Canada Post.
Yeah,
now, my one card that I'm waiting on, that's really annoying, but that's only because again, the timing was bad. But other than that, and then there will probably be a COMC one that at the moment hasn't shipped out yet. But if they do it through Canada Post, which likely they will, that can create a bit of an issue. So I think it's kind of a standoff, and it'll be pretty much if the government wants to put in legislation to make them back to work, they can. But at the same time, it's like, again, without going into too much detail, what it comes down to is this. You basically have folks that are trying to get better benefits and more money and all that, which, you know, as a worker, I can believe in. But at the same time, the company is literally losing money, and they basically have to completely change their business model, or they will continue to lose money forever. It's a bad business. And by the way, we'll come to a bad business model at the end. This will tie in very nicely, the bad business model thing, to the very end of the podcast episode on the thing we're about to talk about. But the point is, it's a bad business model. It doesn't make any sense. And I gave, I was mentioning with Bobby before the live the other day, Canada Post in 2006 was like the high watermark. They did over 5.5 billion letter mail items. So this is a lot of letters, a lot of, commercial letters and letters that regular people send and everything. This past year, it was like 2 billion. So even if you're talking about one stamp, you're saying like, oh, a stamp is over $1 today. Take off 3 billion in 1 year. Decline since the apex. Well, last year they lost 750 million. I bet you could pretty much make up for that with 3 billion extra dollars that you don't have because we don't send letters anymore. And businesses, when they send invoices, they don't send them anymore. It's basically flyers. Like 95% of the time when I go to the mailbox, it's flyers, unless I get something specifically sent to me by somebody. It's not everybody's first choice. It's not a great choice. And if you're sending a parcel, you're probably not using Canada Post. End result, kind of hard to justify a pay increase when your job is becoming increasingly less useful to less people. That's the very high level.
We got the exact same issue down here with the United States Postal Service. They're just... spilling money through the dam every single day. There's just millions and millions of dollars in the toilet. They've talked about, delivering mail on Sundays and, raising rates and doing that. And it's like, no, man, How about you How about you bring the mail every other day? I don't need mail every day. Every other day, save some money.
Well, realistically, most people don't get mail every day anyway. Like, there's almost no scenario where you do. So the reality of it is, again, we'll see what happens with that. The bottom line though is that I think I mentioned to Eric before. This is a situation where I can see both sides on this. I legitimately can see both sides on this. I can see the argument for both.
Sure.
So I can be sympathetic, but you're not going to get a lot of pressure if the majority of my neighbors don't get mail every day, or they maybe get mail once every couple of weeks. And again, the only time they get anything in the mail is a flyer. So Brandon, if all they get is a flyer once in a blue moon, and that's the majority of the mail they get, are they going to care? Are they even going to notice one way or the other? So they haven't. A lot of people, shockingly, I think Canada Post workers may be in for a rude awakening that the majority of folks haven't even noticed. They're like, "Oh, you know what? It has been a while since I've seen a flyer in my mailbox.
Yeah.
Darn."
Yeah, and I get both sides of it. Like as an
Yeah.
employee, you want more money, but
Yeah.
it almost feels like they're also doing less work. So, or did they cut? Did they cut employment? Like lay a bunch of people off? So now the ones that
No,
are working
but likely
more.
that may end up being the result. I wouldn't be shocked if that's what ends up happening in
Absolutely.
order for it to be leaner.
Oh, absolutely. That's what's going to happen if they get what they want. As soon as that contract signed, the layoffs will start immediately to
Yeah,
bring it
and
to what it
it
was.
almost you never want to hear of anybody losing their job, but if they're doing less work, obviously they don't need as many people either. So
Yeah, I think the long term solution for them, and again, we'll see if they can manage it. And I didn't want to stray this far into it, but really quick, I'll try to finish this topic. But the point is that I think their only solution is going to try to be to try to find a way to get back into the game of parcels. Letter mail isn't going to get the job done. They need to be in the parcel game. That means they need to be competitive with the parcel game because the Purelators, the FedExes, the UPSs, and all those ones are delivering a lot of these packages. And there's a lot of third party delivery. Again, when Amazon can get it to my door in a day, they're using a lot of these third party ones. Well, they can get it to my door in a day. They literally drop it off and there it is, my package. So it is possible. So you have to try to compete with that as best you can because that is who is getting most of the business. It's the parcels, it's the packages. That's where the money is. It's not the letter that you're writing to grandma. That's not you can FaceTime her. Like you can pick up the phone and call her. So the likelihood is you're not going to send her a letter that's going to take a couple of days to get there. What's the point? And that's you've lost that. So I think that generation is no longer relevant to what they're trying to do. So there's your Canada Post Minute. Hope you enjoyed.
I want my cards. Get your shit together up there.
Well, listen, as a Canadian protector, you make sure you put out your vote. Otherwise, get in your goddamn car and drive it up. Anyway, real quick, I actually want to. It's been a couple of weeks. So, folks, we have not forgotten. It is time for the card of the week. We did not forget. It is time for the card of the week, and that is brought to us by our friends at AMG. We do have a scrolling ticker. So thank you to AMG, amgcollectibles.ca, and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. Links in the description to check it out, but we are going to showcase a couple of cards. And Eric, I'm going to allow you, because I am a generous man, I'm going to allow you to explain yours first. So I'm going to do a little screen share here, and we're going to showcase this. And I want you, Eric, to start off by explaining your deal with this, and try to stay, 5% more mature if you can. I doubt it, but we'll see. We'll allow you to try. Try to stay 5% more mature here, Eric.
Yeah.
What are we seeing here? What's going on?
That's a football card of a Titans player, patch card, and you can't see the entire word Titans. You can only see the first three letters, and it spells something. And the reason I'm doing this again is 100% because of Brandon. He has brought this show down with his behavior a couple of months ago. And
I
if he wants, to play this game, and winning is that important to him, I will play the game. But I will
so
win.
I have one question.
Only one?
Well, there's many, but there's one very important thing that I would like to point out to the viewing audience and the listening audience. You may be able to catch on to this. Do you have anything to explain about yourself, Eric, and breaking? Because this is two consecutive cards that have been backyard breaks.
Eric has an addiction. And also, I want to point out one important thing. So, in addition to what you just said, I also want to point out something else. I find this awfully convenient after a lot of our talk went to Emmanuel in space. Eric, is there subliminally something you're thinking about? You know,
No.
we talked about mayonnaise, and there was some question. There were some lingering questions at the end of last week's live stream. Are you sure that Emmanuel in space is influencing more than you let on?
Never seen it. Not going to even Google it because I know I'm going to Google it, and a virus is going to go into my phone or computer, so I'm never even going to look it up and see what it
Then
is.
I think it's quite the coincidence. Is all I'm
This
saying.
is about winning because you're either first or last.
Hey, Carlos, you notice on Mayo Monday he also picked a Titan card.
Like, there's a lot going on here.
Listen,
Hey,
I
Brandon,
think
there
he's
are levels to
buying the
this.
Titans to get Mayo Man from Backyard Breaks, and he just happened to hit this one and was
If you're
like,
not
this
first-
works.
If you're not first, you're last.
There are levels to this, man. There are levels to this. Is all I'm trying to get at.
And I will call a truce if Brandon promises, not to keep bringing the show down with his lowbrow blue humor. I will go back to bringing normalcy to the show.
Eric, you're not normal in any way, shape, or form, and I'm about to move on to the next card. Anyway, moving on. All right, Brandon, here we go. I think this was an Eric special, I like to call it. This is his favorite baseball player. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, he's blaming me for what he's doing, and I'm sitting here just picking funny cards. But in honor of Eric and his love of his Boston Red Sox, and obviously this gentleman is one of the most famous Boston athletes of all time,
Infamous.
Bill Buckner, looking good in the royal blue. Maybe a touch of a setup on the photography, but hey, shout out to Upper Deck. They used it. If you're not familiar with Bill Buckner, just Google him. It'll probably be very easy to figure out why this card is funny.
This is 1990
Oh,
Upper
funny.
Deck. 1990 Upper Deck.
Not
1990
funny.
Upper Deck Bill Buckner.
It looks like he's got a big vacuum hose almost there between his legs, which would be it would kind of work.
Nope, not funny.
I think that's basically the tarp in the background there, blurred out a little bit. But the thing about this one, I actually originally when Brandon shared this image and provided it to me so that I could share it with you, I wasn't convinced it was a real card, so I had to go look it up. I remember 1990 Upper Deck, but I don't remember this card, so I did have to go look it up. It is a real card. It is the legitimate card. But when I was Googling it, somebody literally posted, I think it was a blog or something, and someone said, like, did Upper Deck do this intentionally? Is there someone in Upper Deck who sat there and they're like scouring, like trying to find the perfect pictures? Like, yes, this is the picture. I hate the 86 Red Sox almost as much as Eric does. We're using this image. By the way, cold, my dude. Cold. I must say, cold.
Not funny.
All right.
I wonder how many people have attempted to get him to sign this card.
I think at this point, given now that enough time has gone by and the Red Sox did win the World Series eventually, I think probably he'd have a better sense of humor about it. So I don't think he's worried about it as much.
Do you want to?
Oh, I think he would.
No, I don't think he would. Would you want me to tell you why?
Why do you think why?
Because the man is dead.
Eric, that only makes him much friendlier. And it makes his signature far more interesting.
That is true.
Yeah. So don't even try it, Eric. That only makes it better.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you two gentlemen decided to go in two opposite directions, and I think someone needs to investigate. Like I said, I have my suspicions about Emmanuel in space. I think that had more to do with it than Eric lets on. But I think for that, we need an investigator, Brandon. We need someone to look into this. And I'm thinking we need the crime dog. I think we need a man with a lovely hat here who's going to investigate
That's from the new
this
set, too.
It is. I think we need a man to investigate this. We need to find out the connection between Bougie Eric, Backyard Breaks, and Emmanuel in space. And we need to find out if the Bill Buckner thing was done on purpose. So, Brandon, I am commissioning the crime dog to find out what happened here.
Yeah.
And that is a real card that you can purchase from the new Stadium Club Chrome.
Good Lord.
Yeah. The hat almost, y'all remember McGruff?
Well,
Which
yes.
I think is where the whole nickname came from.
That is literally where it came from, yes.
That is where
it almost looks like he has floppy ears here, so I guess he's playing into it.
But that's what I'm saying. This image is perfect. This is exactly what we needed in order to bring all the pieces together. So you see, gentlemen, I thought about this. See, We all went in different directions, but I did. And I was, as soon as I saw your images, I'm like, I'm going to put it in this order because this is the correct order for us to showcase this. This is what needed to be done. So we are back. We are back with the silly card of the week. Thanks to AMG for supporting it, sponsoring the channel, sponsoring the podcast, and all that good stuff. There will be a new podcast episode coming up this next week here on the Wednesday. It'll drop, and there will be a live stream also. If you guys are around during the working hours, usually around 5:15 p.m. Eastern, we hang out a little bit after the shop closes, and usually we'll showcase some cards. And Sherry's been generously doing some giveaways. So there have been some fun giveaways the last couple of weeks. Won't guarantee that every week, but she has been doing some fun giveaways, and we've opened up some product. So there's been a little bit of everything. We're trying to have some fun with it and interacting with the chat a little bit as well.
And some people have been told they're not allowed to enter the giveaways.
Indeed. Shady individuals who watch way too much Manual in Space. But regardless, all I'm saying is that nonetheless, if you do have a chance, come and check it out. Feel free to leave some comments and some feedback. We appreciate it. Also, one other thing I'll include in there is that as we go along, there's going to be an evolution of it. So we're going to keep trying to adjust and add some new elements to it, but we're having some fun with it. And we'll talk about whatever cards came in the shop and all that good stuff. And that's basically what we do a lot of times on that AMG channel. And we're slowly starting to grow it. And that's been encouraging to see that kind of support for the channel, especially since it is a real business out in Eastern Canada. So we have a lot of fun with it, and it's been a good time. So I want to thank AMG for supporting and supporting the card of the week. And also there will be a community post with the 3 options. Like I said, we're back. So we're going to post the 3 options, and you will be able to check that out and make your votes. And all the votes count as always. All righty.
We know which one they're going to vote for.
Well, the Emmanuel in Space is a pretty strong draw, is all I'll say. So I do have one more thing here that I'll share briefly before we get into kind of the main topic. This will be a truncated episode because I do have another recording that I'm also going to do tonight. So busy day for me and a quick turnaround, but we'll do that. I was able to finish a set, and I'll quickly share the card and also explain kind of what happened with this one. So let me share here if I can. This card here, and this one is from 2018 Topps Chrome UFC. So this is the Sean O'Malley autograph. Now, the big thing with this one is this was the most expensive one. I guess they consider it, kind of a rookie auto as far as that's concerned. So it's, his first autograph in Topps Chrome. But the real thing with this one, and this has always been kind of the hang up with this one, this was back before the pandemic. In 2018, you could actually get the Topps Chrome. I was buying boxes of it for under $100. And I was a pretty big fan of UFC back then. And I put together the entire checklist of all the autographs. And there's some great people on there. There's Chuck Liddell on there. I think George St. Pierre's on there. I got to double check the checklist, but you've got Hall of Famers. Amanda Nunes is on there. Even Ariana Celeste is on there. They've got a lot of the people that you would expect from UFC. But this was basically, I would say, the last one that is required. Technically, this isn't true, but there is a Mark Hunt on the checklist. But I have never physically seen that card. So there's a really good chance that that card was never released. So I had been waiting and waiting for the opportunity. It looks like, as far as I'm aware, the Sean O'Malley is the last card I need to complete the set. The Mark Hunt simply hasn't shown up anywhere. I can't find it. I put on an APB for a couple of years now. So I'm going to get the Sean O'Malley in hand, and I'm going to consider the set done. So that is basically, I didn't start it in 2018. I probably started somewhere in 2019. So just before the pandemic happened. But regardless, that's been about a 5-year journey, and that is the last card that I officially need, unless that Mark Hunt shows up somewhere. Maybe it's the only copy in existence, because I just can't find the damn card. So good times. Congratulations.
As someone who tries to put sets together all the time and then goes through them and then upgrades them and all that, there's not too many set collectors left, especially modern day cards. So good job. That's you're keeping the hobby alive by doing that, believe it or not, because we've talked about it on more than one occasion on different platforms, that the set collector is dying off. Every single day at work, I see boxes getting opened. They're taking the expensive inserts with them and leaving the rest. Nobody wants base. Nobody wants the mid-range inserts. They want the high inserts, and the rest is trash. So collecting sets, building sets is a dying part of the hobby. So good for you. Congratulations. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I think it's going to be, originally when he started that conversation, Brandon, I originally thought that he was saying that people open boxes and then he opened fire. That's why they're dying off. He keeps killing them off. He's hunting them for sport. The most dangerous game of all. Man. But nonetheless, I thought that's where he was going with it. Fortunately, he salvaged it and kept it 5% more mature. So thank you.
And not to jump on your bandwagon, but just to say, I just finished a set myself by picking up this. I just finished the top set, the 72 top set. I needed a good version of the Stanley Cup card. I had one that was all banged up. I didn't like it, so I picked this one up. It's in great shape, you know. So now I have the entire set and mint, excellent mint. I don't know what the hell. Anyways, they're all in really good shape, and so that was the last piece of that. So I just finished the set myself, so I know how much fun it is, and I know how long it takes to find what you're looking for. So.
The biggest thing with that O'Malley is, and when I get it in hand, I'll do another video where I'll do the whole set. I will show the whole thing. I've actually done a video back in the archives of the channel where I went through the progress that I had on that set. That was kind of one of my goals. I wanted to finish it off. Again, the Mark Hunt, as far as I'm aware, doesn't exist. I simply can't find it. I can't find anyone who can show me one. So until I see one, I'm not convinced. Regardless, it's on the checklist technically, but I'm going to call the set complete because that was the only other card that I was missing. So what I'll do is once I get it in hand, I'll do a video where I'll showcase the entire set from beginning to end, all the cards that I'm aware of that exist. So that was the last one, and I'll say it's one that I was kind of waiting to find because I had a chance, and this is where I made a mistake, Brandon. I took a page out of your playbook. I actually had a chance to buy the damn thing for like $50 on ComC years ago, and the damn thing. He started to take off. O'Malley started to fashion himself a nice career, and all of a sudden, I couldn't find the thing for basically under $300 for the longest time. It just wasn't available. And it's not that I've literally bought cards way more than that, but it was the principle of the thing. I just refused to pay $300 for it. I just wasn't going to pay $300 for the damn single, and it was the last one I needed.
It's kind of like, and I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I did a video over on my channel if y'all want to check it out, but it's kind of where I had to rope myself back in because a lot of the stuff I really enjoyed, I was neglecting. And after I got to thinking about it, a lot of the reason I was neglecting it is because during the pandemic period, some of the players I was collecting, their prices jumped so high, and it was hard to continue buying them. Like, I'm going to be honest, and this isn't a pump, so Eric, you calm down. But I would like to buy more Robertson, but when Upper Deck, and I'm not necessarily blaming them, but when they got behind and then he started playing well.
Keep going. He might hurt himself. Keep going.
When they got behind, he started playing well. People jumped on, liking him and everything. It made it more difficult to be able to obtain them. Now, as a collector, you obviously you want your player to do well, but sometimes it's nice to have affordable, like the affordability factor too of someone you want to collect. So I have been back, like Victor Robles was one of the players I was buying, and then I just kind of neglected him. And I've been back on buying some of his stuff and everything just because he's kind of settled back in. But yeah, we can, we can discuss all that at a further date, but.
Sounds good. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. I'm glad to have that as one of the goals that I had for the year. I had it the last couple of years as the goal just to finish off that set, and now we're finally, we're approaching the home stretch. I did finally have to basically eat it and just buy it. With shipping and everything, I think it worked out to about 250 US. So it's not like I saved that much. It really, the value of it, that card had gone up by so much. And at this point, O'Malley, I think he's been a champion. So like he's had success. And it is definitely fed into it. And it is like his rookie year, like first autograph. And these are all on-card autos. Topps Chrome, beautiful looking cards. They're kind of got refractory shine to them. On-card
that
autographs.
That year design, 2018's design was also really nice too. In all, like in baseball and everything.
So
yes.
So what do you do with it now? I mean, I've known you now for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or whatever the hell it's been. And I can't really say I've heard you talk too much about your enjoyment of UFC. So now you have this whole set. You're a completionist. You got it. Does it go sit in the bottom of your closet? Or would you think about trying to sell the entire set in one lot and take that money and put it towards something you enjoy more?
So I'm inclined to keep it. I don't mind hanging on to it. Now, mind you, I've given this caveat for everything else. If Nat Turner gets bonked on the head and wants to cut me a big ass check, I will sell everything that isn't nailed down.
Mhm.
In fact, to save time, he could just buy my house with everything in it, and I'll just leave. I will just throw him the keys. He can have all the shit. It's all his. Knock yourself out. Say the word, Nat. Put enough zeros on that check, and it's all yours, man. It's all yours. You can have it all. I'll even leave the BIC mug for you. You can hang on to it. It's all yours. Take it.
I think his plan really, Eric, and he just doesn't really want to admit it. He doesn't want to let it go. He's capable of keeping it because he needs raw inventory for new coasters.
Oh, yeah.
Fancy. It's true.
Send them all
It is
in.
true.
Yeah.
I could literally make a tabletop at this point. There's enough cards in that
Yeah.
set. I could literally have a whole tabletop. It'd be very exciting. It'd be very exciting.
What do you think? I mean, just you're good at calculating this stuff. If you were to put that entire set together and put it in a lot for sale, what do you think a reasonable starting price would be?
I think as a set, you would never do well. There are some good ones. That's why I said that set has UFC Hall of Famers. There's like some really good participants in it. You would almost again any kind of set like that, you'll almost always do better putting it in lots. There are some of the more common fighters who you could probably put together as a bulk lot, but like I double checked, GSP is in it. GSP is a great one. That's a good one. Sean O'Malley's also a good one. But like I said, Amanda Nunes, probably the female goat, like from that side of it. She's in there. Again, all on card autos. These are all on card. There are no stickers on this. You're getting all the good ones.
Right.
So you're looking at a bunch of great all time fighters in this one set. And again, nice design, on card autographs. You're getting all this stuff. And even Ariane. Ariane is obviously popular. So even her auto would have a little bit of value as well. So you'd probably do well on that. But again, kind of we joke about it before. Even if I got like the proper value for it, it's not life changing money for me. It's it might seem arrogant to say, but it's not enough money to make me care. Hanging on to it doesn't bother me in the sense that I put together the set. I've taken my time to do so. Now, am I going to stare at it obsessively? I'm not that sentimental, but I enjoy. But I get satisfaction at the knowledge that I've completed the project. It's the completion of the
Right.
project that is
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that the first year that they had UFC Chrome as well?
For Chrome, maybe Chrome, but obviously UFC does have some stuff going back further. They did have some other stuff a couple of years prior. I think in the '06 year there was some stuff, and I forget. There is some OG kind of UFC stuff in cards. But for Topps Chrome, it might be the inaugural year of Topps Chrome specifically. So
I get a
regardless,
little coolness factor of hanging on to it too and having the
I just
full
think it worked
set.
out great. It was kind of luck because, to be honest, I the only reason I ended up starting the set was because the boxes were, in my opinion, super cheap, which is a weird thing to say given today. But I was just looking at it and going like, well, these boxes are Topps Chrome, nice set, nice looking cards. I like the UFC, and I literally bought them for under $100 a box.
Hmm.
And I think there was an autograph per box, if memory serves me. So like you got one autograph per box. And during the height of the pandemic, I sold the Conor McGregor refractor, the regular refractor. I literally had one of those that I bought on ComC, again, pre-pandemic, for like 85 cents. And I remember documenting it on my channel. And I had a come up where I think I sold it for like 40 or $50.
Hmm.
Bought it for 80 cents,
Does he
sold
have
it
an
for 40 or
autograph?
$50.
Does he have
No,
an
that was just a regular refractor.
No, but does Conor McGregor have an autograph card in that
No,
set?
he does not. If he did, that would add to the value of it for sure.
I would-
Because obviously super popular.
I would
But I
think
think
so.
almost every other notable name that they had around that time was included in that set. Like it was a very good checklist, if memory serves me. I'll find the checklist
Well,
and just
Connor's
refresh
in a
myself,
little
but
bit of
it's
hot water, so it may not raise the value too much.
well, I think though, given that at that era he probably would have signed a decent auto. We've joked in the past about Conor McGregor's lazy auto on posters.
Oh,
There was
that's the
that.
most
There was that.
disgusting thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
put a check mark on everything.
Yeah. So in 2018, I'm fairly confident that if he had been in that set, I think it would have been fine. I think it would have been a much better autograph and probably would still hold some value because there's still some people who would be interested. So that's why I thought it was kind of interesting how that one worked out. But regardless, I'll say that it was a fun set to put together for the most part. I'm glad to be done it though because it was kind of annoying me that was the one card that was just sticking out there. And to
Sure.
be honest, the only thing that was missing, it was a situation where that card was always available. I've had the safe search on it for years, literally years. I'll be happy to retire the safe search. That's a big one for me, because it was just money. I didn't want to pay the freight for it for the longest time, and finally I just bit the bullet and said, you know what? We're at the end of 2024 into 2025. I don't want to roll this over into my goals for one more year when it's one card, and I just need to pony up the cash and be done with it. So found a copy that I was satisfied with, paid the freight for it, got it for a little cheaper than the last couple have sold for. I'll live with that. I think that's that. I think that works. It's fine. So regardless, I had kind of a fun thing, but it worked out in this case. Now, from that perspective, again, I talked about the cheap boxes at the time, which they were at that time. Let's talk about, unfortunately, some breaking gone wrong. So I'll quickly give the breakdown of part of it. We've talked in the past about the weird, the bizarre version of how group breaks work, but most importantly, the weird business model that has. It's a tough business model to get into. It really is. The problem is, so I'll start off with this. Let me do a caveat, and the caveat is this: if a group breaker is doing it honestly and is actually trying to operate an honest business, it is still a very difficult business at the best of times because it's cash heavy. You're basically having to get all this product in. So imagine, we talked about operating in grain the other day. Well, that is an expensive product, and not a lot of people are going to want to get into it. But then you have to try to make these breaks appealing, and you got to keep clearing it because however much you paid for these boxes, you got to clear through them because then the next product is coming and the next product is coming and the next product is coming. And it's this constant flux. Heaven forbid you do multi-sport, which a lot of them have to do because you got to keep the cash flow coming. It's like as soon as you pay something off, there's another product that you got to pay money for. Either it's the distribution or if you have a direct connection to the manufacturer, well, great. That's going to save you a little bit. But at the same time, you literally have to fill these breaks. These breaks have to fill because you need that cash because immediately it's going to be like, all right, pay for the next thing, pay for the next thing. You got to pay for the breakers. You got to pay for everything associated to it. And it's this business that you're churning. It's a hamster wheel. You're trying to keep the wheel moving as much as you can, even if you're doing it on the up and up with everything clear. So with that said, Platinum Breaks, one of the things that came out recently was that Platinum Breaks got in a bit of trouble with, I think it was Blowout, where they owed Blowout $1 million worth of basically back, but what they needed to pay for a product they'd been receiving. So Brandon, why don't you take it up from here? You do have some history and some information regarding Platinum and the background and everything. Do you want to share with us a little bit?
Yeah. So I don't remember exact timelines, but I think I began to know them around 2016 or 2017, and I've been down, visited with them, not at their new location, but where they lived before. And, I've done breaks on camera for them and all that, got to know them, their kids, family, all of that stuff. Anyway, long story short, I have not had really any contact in probably close to a year now. They Part of the reason I quit my job in 2021 was I was trying to keep up with working all day in manufacturing, and G was sending boatloads of cards. Like it was almost daily. Sometimes I was getting packages from him, and I was preparing the cards and sending them in for grading and all that. And he was compensating me for the work end of it. Um, and it it was becoming too much. So that's when in December, I quit my job, and all of 2022 I was doing cards, and that kind of led me to I've said it kind of led me to hating cards for a bit because they always say don't work or don't mix business and pleasure, and that's kind of what I was doing. I was feeling guilty and everything, but um they haven't sent cards in a very long time. I honestly don't know off the top of my head the last time, but again, it's probably been close to a year since they've sent us anything for grading. Um, Now, some of the details that I just want to talk about because I don't know exactly what happened in this. Um, Neo actually messaged me privately with the what's his name, Paul Lesko.
Yeah, Paul
post
Lesko.
and
Yep.
said, "Isn't this the people you know?" I read through it. Now, I'm not here to make an excuse for anybody, but I did think about it afterwards, like a few days later. I I don't know what happened. I do know that his mother passed away in late July. And if I remember the timeline, the way it's set up, I think they said that the payments dated back to like October of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if something in there triggered something going on. I honestly don't know there. But what was weird to me was when I had noticed that they changed the name of their eBay store, as well as started doing breaks, like auctions for them or whatever, on eBay to be posted under a new name on YouTube. That was like a red flag because they've been, platinum for, I think, since 2011 or 2012. Like, they've been in business for a very long time. And, even with all of the stuff that's came out or whatever, they've continued rolling along. And it's also part of the reason why, like, sometimes I looked at the stuff and I was like, I've been down there, I know them, they've been doing this for a long time, the whole Justin Fields thing. I'm like, he's not going to be stupid enough to risk everything that he's built. He's got 3 kids and stuff too. He's not going to risk all that over a stupid ass Justin Fields card. It just didn't make any sense, right? You're trying to think logically. And then when I seen this, I was like, that's a lot of money. Like, any which way you cut it, yeah, product is more expensive now, but that's a lot of money.
It's not one or
I
two cases.
haven't.
It's not one or two cases you're backed up on. That's a lot of cases.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're buying like O3 flawless or exquisite or something, not flawless, like O3 exquisite cases, maybe. I mean, that might put you up there, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just weird. Like I said, there were some red flags with the new naming and everything. I don't know if their plan is to venture into that and go under a new business name. I honestly don't know. I don't have details of that. I do know that they do have a new name on eBay and a new name on YouTube. I have not watched any of their breaks for a very long time, so I don't know like what kind of like flow, like if they were doing a lot of breaks each night, if people were buying in frequently. I don't know any of that, just because I haven't paid much attention to it. Uh, what else? It, is there? I'm trying to think if there was anything, like, I've heard a couple of the videos, and if there's anything that I could like clarify on.
So while you're thinking
Um,
about that, why don't you let me ask you a couple of questions, and maybe some of that will prompt some of the thoughts.
yeah,
So
go
let
ahead.
me throw
Like,
some stuff. Yeah, let me throw some stuff at you. So obviously, Platinum has built up over time. They've had like a series of different little incidents. And
right.
let's be generous. Let's be really generous for the sake of this conversation, Eric. Just to play devil's advocate here. Let me be generous. A couple of incidents you might be able to write off as isolated things. There was that whole thing where, he seemed to be threatening one of his breakers. There was a couple of different elements to it. And, there was where he got mad at one person, bought a card back, I think it was, and then like tore it in half or basically destroyed a card and he bought it back or whatever it was, something like that.
So I can chime into
Go ahead.
both of those.
Sure.
Was it was it probably the smartest thing to do on camera? The whole thing with the employee. The
The
employee's
answer's
name was
no. The answer's
Austin.
no. That one's an easy one. The answer's
No,
no.
it was not. It was not perceived well. It was not taken
No.
well.
Yeah.
It was not a good choice of action. I can say though, I actually have Austin's phone number, and I had communicated with him. Um, there wasn't any bad blood there. It wasn't like any. He didn't feel threatened of his life or anything like that. So I can clarify that. The card, I think there was 2 instances of ripping up a card. One was way before I ever knew them, so I don't know a lot of the context behind it. It was, I think, an NTRPA on that instance, and I don't want to speak on it because I don't exactly know the details of that one. The one I do know about was a Lori Markkinen. I think it was from Prism Choice, if I'm not mistaken, and was the 101. And what happened with that one is he had put it in a one touch, and it like didn't sit in the one touch right. And I guess a bunch of people were trolling in the comments and stuff like that. And so he contacted the person who hit the card, said, "Hey, let me buy this off you." He paid them well more than the card was worth. And then to, I guess, shut the trolls up, he was like, "Okay, it's my card now. You're saying I damaged it, so let me just take it out of circulation," and tore it up on camera. Um, Again, was it the right way of going about things? Probably not, but also he did purchase the card and it was his. So I'm also not, I did it hurt anyone? Maybe a marketing collector, I guess you could look at it that way. But in terms of was it someone else's, he did purchase it. So just to give some context there.
No, that's fair. But I think my point, though, is even beyond that. My point is that regardless of the circumstances around it, remember, we make the joke that on the podcast, we're 5% more mature than the live stream.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
on the live stream, I'll put it this way, because this actually is a reoccurring theme that we've talked about in the past. So I want to kind of put this into context for everybody. Everything is about, and this is the way I take the entire hobby existence, my rules and all the stuff that I come up with. And part of the reason I do that is because I look at the hobby through a very specific lens. And the lens is this: everything is going to be measured, and I will measure everything based on expectations versus what you do. If on the Friday live stream we do something wacky and outlandish, you can almost expect that because we've established the bar at such a level where the amount of wackiness is meant to be. Stick with me on this, Eric. The bar of wackiness is high, not low. The bar of wackiness is high. There's a lot of wackiness. The bar is high. Good Lord, man. Pay attention. So the point is that the expectation of the viewer who's watching regularly, they look at it and go, yes, this is not only what I expect, this is pretty standard. It's par for the course. So all of this makes sense to me. In another venue, it would not make sense. So when we're doing this, we'll have a more direct conversation. We'll still have our fun, but at the same time, the level of wackiness will be brought down a couple of notches. When you're a
So-
business, though, and 1 second, I just want to finish this point. Just 1 second. So we've had this conversation though when we've talked about the Hoj, and we've talked about the things that have happened with crossover in different situations. And then I say, I'm not measuring this the same way that I would if you were just a random collector. If you're a random collector and you're doing some of this stuff, saying some of this stuff, whatever, okay, you know what? I may not agree with you, but at the end of the day, free country, so to speak, blah, 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 sure, whatever. You're the CEO of a department of a larger hobby company, and you're operating inside of the space as the CEO of this thing. So my expectation of you and the way you behave has to change accordingly because you haven't separated yourself from that. You're still operating inside of the hobby in the same business that you're in the business of. So I'm looking at Platinum Breaks. The explanation you gave is fine, but that's not professional. Like there's no way you can argue that any of that is professional. If the breakers don't care, the people that are buying into breaks, they don't care, that's fine. But it's also going to turn off some other potential business. It's not a professional way of doing business.
And that's what I was getting ready to get at. So
yeah, go ahead.
That's where I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this where people don't take it incorrectly. The hobby in general, we hear all of this stuff that happens all the time, right? And we've even said it on here. It's no surprise, it's not the first time and it's going to happen again. And I think that it's became accustomed to a lot of it in the hobby isn't ran very professionally. And I would definitely say in the business sense, there was lots of things, and it may not have been things that caught the attention of sports card radio or, legal or whoever doing, some kind of video or whatever. There was lots of things that was unprofessional. Now, what's weird is there is an audience in the hobby, or most of them gamblers, I literally know that there would be people there buying into breaks while sitting at a casino because they would put in the chat, no audio at the casino. And I'm like, how in the hell are these people doing this? But anyway, there's an
Professional.
audience that liked his style. And they might have been in 5 other breakers rooms too. And they were just, it was the slot machine. You know, you got 6 different slot machines there. One of them is a bitch and never's paying out, but this one's paying you out. But it's the ugliest machine in the room. You're going to keep feeding it because, and I'm just kind of like trying to use example here. Was it professional? No. But the question has to be, with so many instances of things that are unprofessional, how in the hell did they stay in business for so long? And I will also say, he himself said, well, it was like all attention is good attention, whether it's negative or not. So it
That
was
is
like,
a long standing theory, and I want to
No
kind of
such
answer your
thing as
question as
bad
well.
press.
Yeah, I want to kind
yeah,
of answer
yeah.
your question though. I want to respond to your thought though, because like I said, I think it's a good conversation to have. There is an audience for a lot of things. I think though that when going back to kind of what we initially precipitated us bringing them up again, is that we're talking about a situation where if you're unprofessional in every step, and this is where I've given that criticism in the past of some of the folks that operate in the top, there are a lot of folks in the hobby that don't operate professionally. This is where it
Hmm.
became very interesting. And when Nat Turner and that group bought PSA, they were still operating with these archaic things. And you're sitting there going like, you're the biggest grader in the space, all this stuff. And you're operating with these archaic systems and this thing. It's like, again, going back, that's not a professional operation. You're sitting there like half-assing and trying to just make stuff up and putting together stuff up with putting things together with duct tape, so to speak. It's just metaphorically speaking. And that was the way the hobby was. It was a lot of back rooms with a lot of weird stuff going on, or card shops that were basically these dungeons where like cards were all over the place, and none of it looked like a business. Even though
Hmm.
these shops would continue to operate, like, despite the fact they weren't seemingly operating like a business, they managed. The hobby allowed for a certain amount of that because sometimes the customers don't care. And as long as enough of the customers don't care and are willing to patronize it, then so be it. But bring it back around to what led to this whole conversation. If you can't be professional in these things, where it's actually very clear cut and straightforward that, hey, this could be perceived incorrectly. And like, look, your whales are going to support you. They don't seem to care. Fair enough. The whales will keep you in business as long as you stay in business. But the point is, you're not bringing in new people into the fold. You might be bringing in eyeballs, gawkers, that are looking at you the same way you look at a car wreck, that they're eyeballs, but they're not patronizing your business. So you're not actually drawing the right kind of attention if you're being unprofessional long enough. Because then why would I trust you with my money? The whale might be okay with it. He doesn't care. He's in 50 other breaks anyway. He doesn't give a shit. And he's got more money to burn, obviously, clearly. But the average person may be like, yeah, I'm not getting a break with this guy. I don't know what his deal is. Like, what's going on with this guy? And that's going to turn some people off, and it's going to hurt your long term if the whales don't put enough money in to keep you from being in a position where suddenly you owe $1 million.
But so the $1 million thing, I mean, that's obviously the topic on the plate at the moment.
Yes.
To the point of bringing in new people, I think these breakers, they have people who may have been longtime customers. They definitely have whales that are spending buku amounts of money, usually nightly.
Yeah.
But they also have a lot of overturning new people coming in. You can go to any random breaker that's probably live right now, and you're going to see a new name if you go back tomorrow. And I think that helps a lot of them too. It's that person that showed up to the casino, threw the money in the slot, and pulled the lever and hoped to hit. Right. If they hit, they might be back tomorrow. If they didn't, they are jumping to the next machine or something. So, um, that's kept it flowing. But to the point and tune of $1 million, I don't know if this is knowing the deal that was made and the money that was earned from, I don't even remember how many years ago it was, but there was a big sell off of sealed product and singles, to a whale in the hobby. Um, knowing that they've been in business for a while and everything else, I don't know. And again, it's been a while since I've like been around them or even necessarily communicated. So I don't know everything that could have happened between October 2023, and I think it was a 5-month window, so that would have been, I guess, March 2024. I don't know what could have been happening in that timeline. I guess if you're ordering, 200 grand of product a month, it very easily adds up to $1 million. And I'm guessing at some of these case prices at $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, you could hit that 200,000 a month pretty easily. I also, and I'm not placing blame on them. I don't understand Blowout's leash. They have a shop right up the road. I might have to go see if I can get a couple cases and tell them I'll pay them like next March or something to see if I can get a line. But no,
Yeah.
joking.
That was my biggest question: is how do you loan somebody $1 million?
Mark's
I
cards.
think.
Mark's cards.
Well,
We've done this.
Yeah.
We've been done. So no, guys. The point I'm trying to make. Remember what I said a few minutes ago. Let's not forget our theme here. Remember what I said about unprofessionalism and people kind of letting things go longer than maybe they should, being a little loosey goosey with.
Yeah,
Whereas
the guy
if you're a
fished
tight
with
business,
Blowout.
you're going to look at those margins and you're going to keep credit tight because you're going to say, wait a minute. So what kind of folks? Again, going back to what I said a little earlier about the incidents with platinum. If you're someone who's going to offer a line of credit and you look at this, even if you're saying like, okay, well, you're doing this to get attention, you're doing this for clicks, whatever, but at the same time, at a certain point, you're like, you know what? I'm going to start you off with a short line of credit. Make sure you prove to me that you're paying it comfortably over time, and then fine, I'll extend it over time after you've built up a track record, after you've shown yourself to be consistent. The more consistent you are, the more inclined I am to give you more rope. But there's a lot of businesses in the hobby space. I said the Mark's card thing because a lot of people said, well, why would collectors allow this bill to have accrued to this point?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because collectors in a lot of these businesses weren't tight with a lot of these things at that time. They just didn't think, well, what could possibly go wrong? And they asked themselves that question to their detriment.
Unfortunately, as fun and innocent as this space should be, because it's really just a nerd hobby overall, right? We're collecting pieces of cardboard.
Nerd.
But unfortunately, it's one that, in businesses, it's not uncommon. You're right. It's not uncommon for businesses to get lines of credit. That's nothing outlandish.
There are credit terms. That's part of standard business procedure. There are different ways of accounting for it, but the credit terms are part of the way some businesses operate. They're allowed a certain amount of float.
I think, though, that this hobby has too many examples and too much money flowing in and out of it.
Yeah.
That sometimes people take advantage of that. It's like having an unlimited credit card and just going and running it up as high as you can, knowing that if you swipe it again, you're never going to get this bill paid off, right? I think I guess one of the more surprising things and also could be concerning things is I don't think that they were running their business off of just a line of credit with Blowout. Is there others that are owed?
I would put my money on it would be very difficult for me to believe that that's the only avenue which they got boxes.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I would wonder how much could it add up to be?
Yeah, but I would wonder, kind of going back. So again, this is pure I want to emphasize this is pure speculation. We don't know for sure. We don't have numbers. I'm only positing questions here. I'm only throwing out ideas and concepts for people to
It's a discussion, not an accusation.
Very much so. So my thought process would be this. How many of these types of businesses, and I'm only going to use platinum as the example since that's what we're talking about, but it could be others, no doubt. In fact, I will say there are going to be others similar to this, maybe not to the same degree, maybe not to the same problems, but there's going to be a lot of rob Peter to save Paul. Like, if you understand what that analogy means, is that even if you're okay with certain creditors, it's because you took money from these breaks. In this case, you took that money. Okay, I'm going to pay you so that you at least get some of your money. Even if I don't clear you completely, I'm giving you some money. That makes you feel okay. So you don't worry, you keep the line of credit open. And then I put some money over there, and then I put some money over there. And you're playing the shell game. You're moving this cash from left to right, up and down, all over the place. And you're basically trying to keep the lights on. And that's why I said this business model to me is a very difficult one. Even if you're trying to do everything perfectly, even if you're trying to keep everything on the up and up, because you're reliant on these people buying into these breaks. You talk about the whales. Well, if any of the whales get tired or they give up or they tap out, that could immediately change the entire dynamic of everything overnight. It could be like you're clear, you're clear, you're clear. Suddenly a whale goes out. Uh-oh, where's this money come from? And that's where, going with what I said earlier, your reputation and being kind of this one incident after another incident. Look, you may have these viewers, but if
We
they're
just
not buying
talked
into your
about that
breaks,
too.
yeah, if these viewers are not buying into your breaks and they're just watching you and going like, yeah, I'd never do business with this guy, you're actually burning through potential customers without them even spending a dime with you. They'll watch, for entertainment purposes and no other reason. But if they're never going to patronize you, those are not people that you can actually monetize. You're not getting any money from them, even if they're watching. So your antics are turning off these potential customers, and your whales are the ones actually sustaining you. And then you better hope the whales don't go anywhere. That's a
Well,
dangerous game to play. That's a
I just
dangerous game to
did
play.
just did for shits and giggles. The total estimated number that's being thrown around is $1 million right now, and we know, you see what AMG does, kind of the margins on product and everything, and so we kind of have somewhat of an idea of what the margin would be on an overall break. Okay, on an
On a
average
standard
break.
kind of product, sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and remember they have to have supplies, they have to ship, some may have employees and all this, but to create $1 million on $500 profit per break, they would need to run 2,000 breaks to cover that $1 million. I don't see that being possible. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot of, that's a lot.
Or it means that you're ripping off a lot of people on breaks and hoping those whales don't go away. That's why I was saying like
And
it's a very tenuous. You're basically operating in this very sensitive ecosystem where all it would take is one thing falling out of alignment to completely break your entire thing. That hamster wheel I talked about, you have to keep that wheel moving at exactly the right speed. Too fast or too slow, the wheel stops. Too fast, it falls off. The, the balance is so delicate. It's so perfect that you cannot allow. That's why I said, if you're operating this business in a way that is unprofessional, even if all you do is drive away a handful of customers every show, potential customers, well, that's money that could have been in the door that is not going to be in the door. So
mhm.
anything goes wrong elsewhere, there's nowhere else. You're basically churning, you're burning through all these customers before you even had them. You haven't even had the chance to rip these customers off, and they're already not interested in doing business with you. How is that a sustainable model?
And,
Even
and
if the people are rotating through.
another thing to throw out, a lot of the antics were pre-pandemic period. There wasn't a there wasn't a whatnot in existence. There wasn't all these live channels. There wasn't a Fanatics live. There wasn't, the Panda period where people were going to Target and Walmart clearing out the retail shelves and pop up kitchen breakers, right? There was none of that back then. You had, a community of breakers, and that was your choices, and some of them sustained for a very long time. You're talking about losing the customer base. They have so many more options now to go play that slot machine elsewhere.
Yeah.
So it's even harder, even though the space in general might be bigger, there is a ton more options out there. So if you do start losing or you do start having antics flare up at you, it's going to be, they got a lot more places to go shop, and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be harder to retain those people because it's not a smaller group. There's a lot of spaces. There's probably more places to go right now to buy into a break than there were breakers back then. That's how much it's grown. So that's another thing that could have easily played into this.
Yeah, for sure. So what I want to do, and like I said, this was going to be kind of a concise episode, so hopefully you folks enjoyed. We basically just wanted to talk through this a little bit, but what it really came down to, and I want to get any last thoughts on this from you, Eric, because we didn't hear too much from you, because Brandon and I kind of dominated this conversation, but I want to get some thoughts from you in a second here, so at least to close off, so we can have that on there on a Mayo Monday, no less. We want to make sure we get you in on this. But the thing is this: the I'm not surprised with the result that had happened, and I'm not surprised which business it was. They had been off our radar in a while because we hadn't heard too much about them. But then when this happened, it should be telling, though. This is kind of my point that I want to finish on. It should be telling that given who it was, we are not surprised. And that is probably a damning thing if you're operating a business in the space where if something bad happens, people are not shocked. That should say something about the way you have presented yourself, whether you intended to or not, what you've done. Your reputation does carry with eventually. If anything goes wrong and your reputation is not a good reputation, perception wise or otherwise, fair or unfair, whatever it is, it sticks with you and it goes to haunt you. And if you have to try to rename yourself, you should think like, that's not a good sign either. You shouldn't have to rebrand when you've got an established brand in the space. Why would you rebrand if there's no reason to rebrand? Eric, please, I want you to take that thought, and I want you to think about that one.
The thing that really comes into mind is for many years, as the hobby has grown, we in the hobby know who the bad actors are. Everyone's aware of it, especially now with social media and things like Clubhouse and you know and discords, and where people are getting together and talking. They're not just putting a negative post under a picture. I mean, people are getting together, coming together in groups and communicating as groups about their shared experiences. And since that has been the case, many of the bad actors are well known. We went up to Canada, and how many people are we walking through the show, you and I, or me and, the other guys going, oh yeah, that's so-and-so. No, we're not going to give them any money because of this, and this. And we know that guy over there, his prices are going to be too high. And he did this to this person years. It's like, all this stuff. So how do they continue to survive in this hobby when we know who the bad actors are a lot of the times? How do they get $1 million worth of product in credit? How do they continue to survive in this? And unfortunately, and I know it's the easy way out, and I know we're on Monday and not Friday, but it really has to do with rule number 1 and rule number 2.
Oh, I was hoping you'd say it. Yes.
Uh,
Glorious.
Why are you continuing doing business with somebody that you know is a bad actor? Why are you giving them your hard-earned money? Why are you recommending others go give their hard-earned money when you know?
There's a simple answer.
Give us that thought. Go ahead.
There's a lot of bad apples that partake in the hobby. Like I said, like some of the people that are doing this are such addicts. If you know a guy is dealing drugs, but you need the drugs, you don't care who it is. You're gonna go get the drugs, right?
That's
If you're
true.
addicted to this, and you've been in rehab or assistance helping people with this, if you're addicted to this and you need that hit, you don't care what
Right.
or who they are.
That's true.
They're your supply line.
Yep.
You're
not as
going to
picky.
go keep
You're not as
getting that
picky.
hit.
Yep.
So
On some
I do
level,
want to say one thing.
on some level, you are correct. Yes.
It is disappointing to me to see this because I have stood up for them. I have defended them about some of the things in the past because I did consider him a friend. However, as with many cases, we are humans. We can take people for face value of what what's seen, or look at things maybe differently because we consider them friends, and let the leash go a little bit further out. Um, it's disappointing to me because, like we talked a few episodes ago, your reputation and all of that is something that I don't think is necessarily as important in this hobby as it should be. And I know a lot of people would come into my chats, "Hey, are you still, dealing with them?" Or I'd get comments like, "Hey, you're the ones," when when things would pop up about them. And it sucks. Like, and they're not the only ones. There's been some other people in the hobby that I had, and I'm not going to go into details of it because there's no concrete evidence, but there's some people that I really thought were good people. And there's now questions behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I may not have this big, massive business, but helping people grade the cards and knowing that me and my wife have been able to run a group submission for going on 5 years now, and we take pride in trying to do things right. It sucks when you've considered someone a friend and you've defended them, whether rightfully so, or maybe there was sheep pulled over my eyes. It sucks to be, I guess, tied in with it. Like, you're kind of roped in the bowl of spaghetti, because I have done previews of their cards and stuff like that. And that part of it just sucks. Like, just remember, shit can change in a blink of an eye. And sometimes people are, especially in this space with as much shit that we see going on, apparently some people are really, really, really good actors. So anyway, I just wanted to say that because I did consider them a friend, and I am highly disappointed. So
Sure. No, I
And
appreciate you include that.
just real quick, and I know that this is Monday, but please, in all seriousness, and we take, it's a joke, but we take this seriously. Look at the first 3 rules of this silly show.
oh yeah,
Right?
and it's
There is a dark correctness to the BIC rules that I developed. There's a lot of truth to those rules.
If we weren't being sarcastic, it would be rule number 2. Okay? So it's that's how important it is. That it's kind of like 2A.
it's also why I, like, me and Carlos, we are able to debate sometimes, but it's why I hate, and I understand the sentiment, but I hate it when it's said, it's not the first time, or it's no big deal, it doesn't affect me, or whatever, because that continuous rotation of, oh, well, shit happened again, or, it's going to happen again. I understand that, but as someone that hates seeing it, and I don't have no solutions to it, let's be honest, but as someone that hates seeing it, it sucks to hear, well, it's been going on forever and it's going to continue. And it's like, that freaking sucks. Like, why can't we have, and the whole world is filled with corruption, but why can't we have a space that's just fun? And I think that's one of the benefits of try to create a group, try to create a little community and people that you can trust. And hopefully they don't step on your toes and, shit in your pool. But that's the only thing we can do is look after each other, or look after ourselves, and then, try to look after each other. So, but
That's fair. And I appreciate you giving some background on it. We did want to have a little bit of a conversation on it. We'll be back. There's some more topics we definitely want to touch on, but this one was kind of timely. It was pertinent. And hopefully you guys understand. Like, what it comes down to, so we're all on the same page, and I think we made it clear, is that we know only what's been put out there. Obviously, Brandon has a little more background with Platinum than other people. And at the end of the day, it's not my job to try to figure out everything that happened. I did want to throw out a couple of thoughts. So, like I said, I literally presented it as these are just some things to chew on, because there are ways to get there. Go ahead.
I'm not here to uncover all of the details, because obviously there is apparently a court hearing or whatever. I don't know the details of the legalities,
and we'll let the due
of all
process
the
play
paperwork.
out. We'll let the due process play out. It's going to be what it's going to be.
But just for the speculators of a new name, new whatever, that has been in place for I don't know when it actually started. I noticed it first on eBay. I would say a couple months at least. So that isn't speculation or rumor. That has been in place. Now, where they go from there with that, I have no idea. But there is a new name or whatever. So
Sounds fair. So we'll follow up down the road if there's anything else to it. We wanted to make sure we had that discussion on it. It's a good chat, gentlemen. Thank you for participating in that. And like to get any comments or thoughts that you guys have on it. It is an open dialogue. It is an open discussion as well, because we don't know anything. We're just kind of presenting some thoughts on what we've got in front of us. This is what we have. So some thoughts that we have on that, and then we'll get back to. We'll have a little bit of some collecting topics. We had a collection completions today, so we still have the collecting side of it
I'm
included.
trying to get there and join y'all.
There you go. Keep working on it. But card of the week will be there. I will do a community post a little after the episode drops. I'll do a community post. We're back with a card of the week episode, so feel free to vote on it. Pick your favorite. I'm going to make sure there's images to all of the above so that you guys can check it out. And then, as usual, we want to thank AMG for participating and supporting the channel and the podcast. More videos coming up on the channel as always. And then also the live streams on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we're 5% less mature. And that concludes this one on a Mayo Monday. Episode 103. Or 104. I can't remember which one it was that I said at the beginning of the episode. One of those is the correct number. But that'll be it for this one, and we'll catch you in the next one.